Hello, everybody. It's Explicit Material God Mode, the podcast where Evan and Shane talk about video games, and it's gonna be a fun one because this is one we actually planned out ahead. Well, as much as we can plan, especially you, Sir Evan. I've been meaning to ask you. You're a father now. Like,
That's right. That's
you have a
correct.
beautiful baby boy, Parker.
Uh-huh.
And just explain to me the mind f that happened as happening right now during your time as a brand new daddy.
It's crazy. There's stuff, yeah, it just comes from all directions. It's completely different, right? Like I think I don't think that having another kid or a third kid would be more different than going from 0 to 1. Going from having no kids to having a kid, huge transition. It's as crazy as everything, as everyone. And it took me and my wife a long time to work out a system where she does 100% of the work and I do absolutely nothing whatsoever. Uh, but once we worked that out, things
At
got a
least you're
lot
honest about it.
easier for me. A lot easier for me.
Yeah.
So he does. He's just a clean slate. He's a blank page. He he's never done anything wrong. Like he's too young to know what like wrong is. So he's never let me down. He's never disappointed me. Oh, you want to say hey? You want him to make his little film debut? I don't love him being on the internet for everyone to see, but he is
Oh,
pretty freaking cute.
look at him.
Aren't you, bud? That's okay. He's camera shy
Well,
right now. He's looking at mom.
he's
He
got
knows
his
where his bread and butter comes from.
he's got his father's hair, that's for sure.
I
But
I wonder how many people have said that so far to
I
me
know that
so
was a bad
far.
joke. I'm sorry. I'll edit
No,
that
it's
out.
awesome. It's awesome. It's it's cool, you know? It's like when I think about when I do stuff, I'm like, "Ooh, I wonder if Parker will enjoy this someday."
Yeah,
He's not
like
very good at most of the games we've played so far. He's a pretty crappy co-op player. He let a goal go right in Rocket League. He didn't do anything about that. Uh,
yeah, like I always ask like my friends who just had children, like, how overbearing of a parent do you think you can get? You know, because like there's a limit. You know, if you like push too hard, then they'll do the complete opposite. But you want to encourage them at the same time. You know, I don't know.
I
It's a
know, and
balancing act.
that's tough too. And I'm starting to think back now and seeing like when my parents, not when they did stuff, but when they didn't do stuff, or like I asked them their opinion on something, and instead of answering me and giving me their opinion, they were like, maybe I shouldn't download this messed up manifesto that I think, and maybe this kid should, kind of carve his own path. But that's a battle. I guess we're going to be playing all our lives. But somebody gave me some pretty good advice, and that was the kid is not me. It's like he might not like what I like. The stuff that worked on me discipline wise might not work on him. And I may be like, hey, check this. Here's some oldies music. But here, listen to the Goo Goo Dolls, and he might not like it. And that's like part of it too, because this is it. We're separate, I guess, separate entities. He's not me 2.0, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. So to segue, this is a good segue. Let's segue into what we're going to talk about today, and it's a topic that we've talked about before, sort of in past podcasts about video game movies. Okay, and one in particular that we both watched this week because we said, what are we going to do for the podcast? Well, we could review the new Mortal Kombat movie that you still seeing ads on every single TV app that I have. I keep seeing Mortal Kombat, and so I'm like, the trailer looked cool enough. Like Scorpion and Sub-Zero looked great, and I was like super excited. And then I watched it, and
I'm sorry to hear that, Shane.
and I gotta tell you, folks, it is really bad.
It was pretty bad. Okay, it was pretty bad. I'm glad I waited for you to say it because I was going to kind of play off your energy, but I felt the same way you did. I mean, we've got like, you got the dialogue written by basically two 12-year-olds that discovered the F word for the first time today, right? And that's everything they wrote was like that. There's just a ton of just wasted. They're like, there's really no excuse because there's such a thing as like a low budget movie that's good, right? So we know it's possible,
Yeah.
but there's no excuse to have a scene where you're not just like, stop, hang on, that was really bad acting. It was so bad. We have to do it again. And if that's in a movie now, it's just more disappointing, right?
Yeah,
You
I
have a
mean,
standard of quality.
dude, the okay, we'll take this step by step. Like grade
Okay.
it. Okay, we'll grade it on its merits. Okay, so acting. Okay, let's talk about the
Yeah,
acting.
but not even
Okay,
in a funny like 80s movie way. It was like it was rough.
I mean now so acting and writing kind of coincide together. You need to have a good written dialogue and obviously a good actor to act out the dialogue because a good actor can make bad dialogue great, you know.
Yes,
But
yes.
you know, that's asking a lot for actors who are in the fight scenes, to their credit. Um, but and you're also the storyline itself is very supernatural, and so the writing is talking about these supernatural things. So you really need an actor like
Who can
for what
sell
they
it with a
did.
straight face, right?
Yeah, for what they did with the movie in the direction. Okay, so the movie is a supernatural. You know, all these supernatural things are everywhere. This freaking, you know, ice ninja comes out of nowhere in the real world and does
Uh-huh.
all these crazy, extravagant things in a like a TV show. In a TV show, you can spend an entire episode, like an hour-long episode, on the actors like taking in all of the crazy things that just happened because in real life if a crazy ice ninja comes out of nowhere and starts attacking your family and you and trying to kill you, you wouldn't be like you know hang on, he says, okay, so yeah, so Jax picks up Cole, which we'll get to Cole in a second, picks up Cole, the main character of the story,
Yeah.
and this is after Sub-Zero is trying to kill
He
Cole, and
he brings him away from Sub-Zero, right? Like
yeah,
he
he
takes him
saves
away
him.
from Sub-Zero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they're in the car, and Jax is breaking down the story to Cole and the audience, being like, "This is the reason why Cole's important." Um, and he goes, "That mark isn't a birthmark. It's a, it's, you've been chosen." And I was like, first of all, we don't do the chosen one thing anymore. You got to think of something better than the chosen one theme. Okay, we can't do that anymore. It's been done a million times. You can't do that. So
Plus,
automatically,
the
but
only times we've ever seen Cole fighting was when he got beat up, right? Like that's his kind of lot in life. He's not
yeah,
the best MMA fighter in the world to
no,
represent humanity.
yeah,
He just
yeah, he's
loses.
he's been
Okay,
chosen.
spoilers
So
ahead. Here we
anyway,
go.
yeah, spoiler alert. It's gonna whatever.
Yeah,
So he
whatever.
picks him up. He picks him up and he says, "You've been chosen." And this is like 5 minutes, not even two. This is 2 minutes after this all this supernatural stuff is happening. And he goes, and then Cole goes, "Chosen to fight. What do you? I'm not the fighter I once was." And it's just already we're into this like I'm already accepting that an ice ninja is trying to kill me and my family, and I'm already stressed out about me being a bad fighter. Like, no, supernatural horrible things are happening. Like you need to take like 30 minutes, like not even like a good amount of time or to
To
process.
react to it in the way that a realistic person would. This is a huge thing that I have with movies. I think it's 100% important, not just movies, but TV shows, anything in general. If you want to sell your audience on something, then your actors have to react the same way. Like all of the actors have to pretend like this is a, if I did an example of that in one of the videos that I made for you. That was the when they you're watching Star Wars and they come across this Death Star, and they want to convey to you that it's a huge object, right? But this is Star Wars. Everything's a huge object. So
Yeah.
you have them say, you have one of the characters mistake it for a moon, and now all of a sudden, that's no moon, that's a space station. And now you're just as in awe of these guys that live their lives as aliens, but now they've seen something new. Another example is in the TV show Lucifer. I don't know if you watched that or not,
Never watched it.
but the lead character is the devil, and he has this power that he can transform his face into what he calls his devil face, and no one ever mistakes it for anything else, right? Like this is that's part of, I think, the magic to it, that people know he is the Christian devil when he does it. And what it is, I mean, it's a TV quality special effect that's just like a mask that he wears. There's nothing about it that's like inherently scarier than something you've seen in a horror movie. But the characters are horrified. Every time somebody sees it, they over the top. It's the scariest thing they've ever seen. It changes their life because now they know that like the devil is out there and stuff. And that's how you so just like you said, it actually took it away from you to see these people in what we accept as the real world. And then all of a sudden, snowing in July. That's strange. Snowing in July. We almost died. I think the best thing I can do right now is talk about my history as a fighter.
I
No,
mean,
that's yeah.
uh,
I'm with you 100% on that. He totally bought the entire Mortal Kombat present. You know, all of it. He swallowed all of it in a split second.
yeah.
No.
And so that's, like this whole idea, the entire storyline of Mortal Kombat 2021 uh could be, you could pass it off as a TV show. So like I said, like the first hour is introducing all of the characters, introducing the world, this is because, the problem with a movie is that again, like Mortal Kombat isn't obviously known for its story. I mean, I haven't played Mortal Kombat in like God knows how long, since the second game, which is long time ago. And of course, I've seen the movies or whatever. But again, Mortal Kombat is just a fighting game that's just really cool. And then
That
they've
is the
added
story.
storyline
Yeah,
on top of
it's
it
two
over the
people fight
years.
each other. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's Outworld, and the Mortal Kombat is the the combat between all the worlds,
The
and
tournament,
whoever,
yeah.
yeah, a tournament.
That was another thing. By the way, if you get excited about the movie because you think it's about the tournament, they're gonna talk about the tournament. They're gonna go towards the tournament. Things are gonna build up towards the tournament, but you're not gonna see any tournament. So,
There is no
oh,
tournament.
there's no
There's
tournament.
none.
None.
That's pretty disappointing.
I was a little disappointed.
Yeah,
But
the
do you think that
acting.
they should have spaced it out? I mean, if you have like this many larger than life characters, each one with their own unique, stuff, you kind of do need to. But it is possible, right? Like and I maybe shouldn't be comparing it to like a huge budget movie like a Marvel movie, but it is possible to have 10 larger than life characters all sharing the same space, and they still have room for all of each other, right? Like they're still staying true to their own characters, they're giving the audience something. And that's I think the best that they could have done, and instead of that, it was what it was. It was not
Uh,
that.
like, okay, so yeah, I think the acting and the dialogue both were.
Pretty hard to get through.
I mean, and again, and I think it just falls into a lot of the traps that video game movies, and to an extent like books, like book movies, fall into for people who read the book and then they watch the movie and they're like, they hate it because the movie is trying to condense a book this big into an hour and a half or an hour and 50 minutes, or
Right.
even 3 hours. Like, it's hard to condense the meaning of a book, or the story of a book that spans chapters and chapters into something so small. And it just, yeah, and because of that, the dialogue suffered, and then the acting didn't help. And what I was really surprised about, you know a movie that literally is about fighting, the fight
Uh-huh.
scenes were not good.
That
I'm
I
sorry, the
thought
majority of fight scenes
I
were
thought the
not
one at the end was
great.
pretty cool. The
The
one at
one
the
at the
end I
end was
thought was
cool,
pretty
and I'm
good.
going to come back to that here in a second
Okay. Okay.
because Sub-Zero and Scorpion were the best parts of that movie.
Yes, I agree.
But uh, you know, I'm just watching these fight scenes, and I'm not a fight choreographer. I'm just some idiot nerd drummer, whatever, that's talking about a movie that. And here's the thing. I feel bad now that I'm saying all these things because people really worked hard at it and they really were passionate about it, and it really sucks that it sucks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it just didn't hit the right spots. But like I was excited for at least the fighting's going to be good, right? I mean, I can deal with bad acting if the whole movie is about like people punching the hell out of each other and it looks cool. Like I can at least fall back on that. No, it would like the movement of the actors were slow. Like they didn't even bother to speed up the footage. That's what they did with the Matrix movies. When because
Okay.
Keanu can't move that fast. They had to do this slow choreography, and then they just did some magical camera work and made
That's
them
a
look
little
like
known
they.
fact about that movie is that he actually trained until he was a faster than a bullet. Keanu Reeves is on another level of acting.
But that like they didn't even like employ, and it was just a lot of old school kind of like fighting cuts. Like in the in
To make it easier to shoot. Is
Yeah,
it
to make
you
it
mean?
easier to shoot, to make it have more impact, with close-up shots of like
Oh no, yeah, I don't
no,
like it
again,
either.
another reason why the Matrix fight scenes were great, because they were all longer shots. They're like, hey, this whole scene is going to be one shot, so you better nail it,
You
you
also
know?
notice that when you're playing Mortal Kombat, you can see both characters at the same time.
Right.
Maybe that's what the people want. I don't know.
And so when I saw, I mean, the Daredevil show, did you watch Daredevil on
That's a great,
Netflix?
yeah, yeah. That
The
was
fight
great
scenes in
fighting.
Daredevil were just so much better. And so I'm just like, how does a TV show on Netflix, how is that? I was just very disappointed in the fight scenes.
You wish that fight scenes now would be like we would be seeing stuff now that we never could have seen back then in the 80s and 70s. But at the end of the day, it's, actors training and then hauling off and hitting each other and stuntmen falling on the ground. And we haven't really, there's no like modern day equivalent of Bruce Lee. There's no, I mean, there's Tony Jaa and some other fighters are pretty impressive and stuff. And then there's like people that are wrestlers that are on screen just to look huge.
Right.
Um,
I mean, I'm not saying that, but I remember watching an interview, and the director or someone who's involved with the movie said it was very important to have actors who actually can fight, who actually are martial artists, and actually can like hold their own in an actual fight, which I was excited for, because then they would showcase, and I'm sure they're great martial artists.
which one of those would you like to take with you as your bodyguard? Because maybe none.
Uh, but yeah, I did not like the fight scenes at all. I think um Kano was probably, I liked Kano. I was like, Kano's good. He's the good sarcastic merc. I'll take it. Like he played that part really well. I was like, all right, he's a dick. Gotcha. I'm all right.
You bought that. You
I
bought
bought
what he
I bought
sold.
that. I bought that. Let's talk about Cole. Let's talk about the main character of the story.
Let's talk about how every time a hardcore Mortal Kombat fan buys a video game, the first thing they think is, "I hope there's some new characters. Oh, new characters! That's what I want." Yawn, Scorpion. I don't think so. Get out of here, Sub-Zero. We don't want you. We want new powers. Right? Am I right in that
Totally
prediction?
right. That's all.
Okay.
I don't want the characters that I grew up with and love. No, I don't want that at all. What I want is one of their sons coming out of the woodwork. That's what I want.
Oh man.
And so Cole, the whole idea to put Cole in there and make him the focal point of the story, and have Cole be the lens into the Mortal Kombat world, I think that was a terrible choice.
He was the everyman, right? Like he was the one that knew nothing, just like the audience did. Uh, and then little by little, yeah, I can't defend it. I'm sorry, I have
I
nothing.
just, number one, you're creating a brand new character, which, like, dude, again, we've talked about this with video game movies or movies that are involving a really beloved franchise. You gotta be careful if you're gonna bring in new characters, especially a new character that's the main one that gets the most screen time. You better nail it. And it has to be like awesome, and it was not. It was not
And
awesome.
the whole Ancana thing or the Arcana or whatever that like because you know that was part of it, right? Like he starts out with nothing, he knows nothing about Mortal Kombat, and then as he goes, not only does he learn about Mortal Kombat, but he gets this magic gift that like no one again, no one ever looks at Sub Zero and is like, I wonder how the fire came to be. No one does the same, or Scorpion, yeah, and no one does the same thing with this guy turns into reptiles. It's just a given.
Oh
There
yeah.
doesn't have to
By
be
the
a reason
way,
why he turns into
I,
reptiles.
I hated this in the original Mortal Kombat movie when they made Reptile, a little CG animated, thing, and it's like that's not what Reptile
He
is. Reptile is a
Reptile
dude.
is supposed to be the same actor that plays all the other ninjas, just in a different color. That's what is supposed to happen.
Now,
That was
again,
it. They always intended for Reptile to change. Even I know you didn't play anything after the 2D Mortal Kombats, but in all the newish or newer ones, Reptile is an actual lizard.
oh, is he? Okay, okay, then
Yeah.
scratch
I
what I
mean,
just
it
said.
doesn't make it any less lame. Uh,
Okay, scratch what I said,
if you want to
because
see
again,
lizards fighting, it's Primal Rage that we'll be playing, which
yeah,
they need to make that into a movie. Yes, indeed.
yeah, dude, that's a good one. What else? Let's see. Was there anything in particular that you want to bring up? I feel like I'm just going down the list here.
They had teasers how they had like a statue of Shao Kahn, and they talk about Goro as being like a Shao Kahn something or other, which even the fight scenes with Goro. I know. So okay, this is another thing that happens a lot in movies is you have to fight the big guy, right? And the hero fights the big guy, and what usually happens is the big guy picks them up and throws them, and then always in the direction of like a safe place to land, right? I mean, there was
Like
even
on
a
a
scene
barrel of, on some hay.
yeah, yeah. Well, there was even a scene in the fight scene of the big guy when they're Mad Max Fury Road, right? And the big guy, they're fighting on top of a car, and the big guy picks him up and throws him further down the car instead of off to the side or off the end of the car if he wanted to just obliterate him. But nowhere I think has it been more when I'm watching and I think to myself, the big guy could take his index finger and his thumb and pop Cole's head like a grape. Like the fact that he's not doing that, if he dies, it's on him because he should do that. And I don't see what else there is to do.
Yeah,
He's
the
the
whole
size of the Hulk.
yeah, and Cole finally getting his Arcana. What was it? Arcana? What was it?
I don't want to spend another minute trying to think of it because I don't want this movie to win.
Cole gets his powers,
He gets his
and
powers.
like the whole time, I thought as I was watching this movie, especially at the end, and I was kind of like, I'm watching a Power Rangers movie. And you know what's
It
funny? I
was
actually enjoyed the Power Rangers movie better than this movie.
You're talking about the remake? You're talking about
Yeah,
like
I'm talking about the
like
fucking
with the
remake.
teens, all the teens and their teen problems and their teen angst and everything else.
Yeah, I
And
enjoyed
they
it.
do. So they get a power that somehow sums up their essence, I guess, or some kind of I don't know. There's no one asked why. This is an answer to a question that no one asked. No one asked why Sonya Blade shoots little rings and does the kiss of death. There doesn't have to be a why. It's a goofy video game where you kick people's heads off, right?
Yeah, I think what I think there's oh man, Mortal like the whole idea of Mortal Kombat to work as a movie, I think can only work if you don't take it super seriously. You know, like
Yeah, yeah.
you almost have to go Avengers style. You know, where it's like it is a serious movie. There's some serious stuff that happens in it, but at the same time,
But at the end of the day, they're
it's
all
really
wearing
funny.
skin tight clothes. Yeah. It's just, it's kind of goofy, I guess, or parts of it are silly. And
Yeah.
I think the 80s movie did not take itself seriously at all.
Well,
And that was part of what was good.
I think what helped was actually the soundtrack, and the soundtrack for
The
this movie
soundtrack was
was
unbelievably good
yeah.
in the 80s.
Yeah, because it was like dun, 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 dun. It's like techno house music, you know. And
Yes.
when you're listening to techno house music, you can't be 100% serious. Like it can't be The Notebook.
Now there were still, the stakes were high, right? It means the end of the human race if they don't win this tournament.
Right.
They don't say tournament in the movie. They say tournament.
Tournament.
Which,
Oh yeah, but okay, we were talking about Cole and his powers. So
yeah,
when he gets his powers, super Power Ranger
yeah.
style, and then he gets an armor, gets his armor. I'm like, you know what? I can get down with the cool armor and the cool swords that come out of your hand. I can get down with that. But it's just like the look of having a set of armor without a helmet or like a mask. Like how dope would it be if like hit like and it comes like a mask, like freaking Sub-Zero and Scorpion, like they got masks. Why can't you make Cole have a mask?
It was very Aquaman. Like the inspiration, I think, was Aquaman that armor. But
And oh, go
I
on.
don't know if you're looking for head protection in the Mortal Kombat movies, where at the end of the game, if you have low enough health, someone can just rip your head off no matter what you're wearing on it.
Yeah,
So
right.
they need the
uh
armor. I don't know why Goro didn't punch him in the face.
it's just punch him in the face. You have 6 arms, bro.
That's how I solve most of my problems. Punch him in the face.
But and again, to bring up the Power Rangers feeling, I'm just like I felt like the whole movie was talking to me like I was a child. An R-rated Power Rangers movie that was talking to me. Like I'm so dumb that I don't know who any of these characters are. I don't know why why they have powers. It's just like it's an R-rated movie. You're saying fuck. You're
So you
saying
can't. There was a bit of inconsistency there because you can't talk out of one side of your mouth and say, "Hey, new audience member who doesn't know any of this, here we're going to introduce you thing by thing," and then on the other side of their mouth say things like "flawless victory." By the way, I know that I'm hard on this movie, but I would have given it a 10 out of 10. A 10 out of 10 if at a random time the little guy had popped up in the corner and going whoop-dee.
yes. I
I
think
would
that's
have
I
I
think
would have
that's
held up the
Ed
card.
I think that's Ed Boone,
Or
Noob Saibot.
Boone
Ed
or
Boone.
Tobias, one of the two guys.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. Man, yes, that would have been 10 out of 10. Like that would have been worth the whole movie. And like, okay, so let's go through the movie faux pas that a movie can go through. Okay, number one, they
Yes.
went through the chosen one story, and they even said you've been chosen. Okay, so you can't say the thing.
Yes.
They said the thing. This is how many
Yes.
things they said, but you're not supposed to say in movies. They said the thing.
Drives me crazy.
They said flawless victory, which I guess you have to, say, but you said it. You said the thing. And what else did they say? Oh God, dang it! It was
There was a
flawless victory,
fatality. They did a lot. They did
fatality.
a couple fatalities. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Oh gosh, dang it! What else did they say? Now
So
I'm
did you
like,
feel talked down to? Like when they
yeah.
said flawless victory, were you like, I don't need to have that spelled. I know when it's a flawless victory. Thank you very much.
No, well, it wasn't a talking down. Like maybe, but I don't know. It felt forced, and maybe it felt
I
it felt
mean,
like a dad joke. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
hey, what I said about flawless victory? Yeah, I
All
get
you
it.
35
Thanks.
year olds out there, you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I know, but let's hang on to that for just a second, okay? Because to be fair, right, we're old,
We are
and
old.
they don't really make movies for us, right? They make movies for 20 to 25-year-olds, and they make video games like Minecraft and Fortnite, or a variation of Minecraft and Fortnite, or a mod in Minecraft that plays Fortnite, or a character in Fortnite that is from Minecraft. That's what the two. That's what we would be playing if we were just getting into video games right now, right? So
Right.
when something's for us, I feel like this Mortal Kombat movie was made for with us in mind, and so the fact that they swung and missed so many times, it's like personally insulting, right? It's like, you thought I would like that when you did that. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. I felt like I was watching a Yui Bowl movie. Yui
Oh,
Bowl just
is
went on
that
a
that
kick.
director that's just terrible?
Like he just been wanting to make the video game movie. So he made Blood Rain, he made another video game. I think he made 3 video game movies like in a row, and they were all just awful. So much so
Yeah.
awful that they like the video game community has essentially banned him from doing anything from video games.
So this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you go to a studio with a ton of money and you say, I want to make something out of a video game, they'll say, there's never been a good, it's a curse.
Yeah.
For every Tomb Raider, not even the one with Angelina Jolie, the more recent one I thought was pretty enjoyable. For every Tomb Raider, there's a Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and the Sonic movie apparently was really enjoyable too. I never
Okay,
watched
yeah,
it, but
I liked the Sonic movie. That was pretty good.
yeah.
What
They're
they
making
did,
a sequel.
they didn't take themselves too seriously in that one either. And I also think that I think that you personally would enjoy it. Like, knowing you,
I've been meaning to
uh,
watch it. I've been it's
I
been on
think you
my
would like
queue
it.
for like forever. I just never again, I just like the time I do have, I spend playing video games, not watching movies.
Right, right.
But what else did I want to talk about this movie? And then we can go on to our other topic, which is what's better now than it was then, and vice versa, as far as video games is concerned.
Okay,
Because
okay.
like this movie is not great, and the older Mortal Kombat movie is so much better. Like
Yes.
it's you know it's just, how hard is it? Like, I mean, I know I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not a guy that's to get all the stuff together. I get it. I'm not successful in that way. And congratulations, you have a chance to do it, and that's amazing. But at the same time, it's like, how freaking hard is it to make a movie, a fighting game movie? They did the same thing with Street Fighter. They just can't get Street Fighter right. Like,
I didn't watch any of those. I'm sorry, Shane.
I mean, how hard is it? It's people fighting in the streets, and it's a tournament. It's it. The movie's been made a million times, but you can do it again and
Are
be
you
and be
telling me
cool.
that if you want to make a tournament fighting movie, you should include the tournament in the movie? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That might be too much to ask, apparently. Because again, they directors and writers, they wanted to put in their own, they're like, oh, that's too, we don't want to do the same thing the other movie did. What do you mean? That's the basis of the whole story.
You can't really change. I don't know. I think we've
Unless they could have gone this route. They could have gone this route. They could have stuck with the best parts of the movie, which was Scorpion and Sub-Zero. That was the best part of the movie. Now,
okay.
because it's a revenge tale, and it's supernatural, and it's like, and they were the best fighting actors. They were the best actors too, even though they were speaking a different language,
Fair.
you
Mhm.
know. And so it's like, I think you could have gotten away with making it like a Mortal Kombat story, like Scorpion, a Mortal Kombat story, or something like that. I don't know, like, and then
Oh,
build,
and you're
and
gonna
then
go kind of one character at a time
to
almost,
kind of
or
do
kind of
what they
build a
did with the
franchise out of that?
do what they did with the Avengers. If this movie works out great, like it did with Iron Man, then you can build off of that and go, okay, this is, each movie is with a different character or different kind, subsets of characters. I don't know.
They want money, Shane. They just want money, and so it was just It
Like I
was
feel
just
bad. I feel bad
pushed
for
out.
people who got suckered in because the trailers did look really cool, but the only way to watch it is to watch it on HBO Max. I really do feel bad for people who watch the trailers and be like, "I'm gonna get an HBO Max and pay $14.99 to watch this movie," and then you did, and then you're out $14. That's a I guess that's the risk you
Well,
take.
I have access to some other hit shows like Pretty Little Liars. So who's the real winner there? Shane. Exactly.
And Big Love and
All the classics.
uh, I mean, yeah, it's just
I'm
it's
sure
just
I think I did the same thing that you did. I tried to sit and think and what could have made it good. What would have made it like awesome. And I did the same thing you did, and I couldn't come up with anything. The only thing I could come up with is if they did like a 1917 style gimmick, right, where they have like the whole movie's one shot. Well, in this case, the entire movie is one long fight scene, and so it's one fight scene from beginning to end. There's barely any time to breathe and stop and ask questions like, "Were you a good fighter a long time ago?" There's no time for any of that. They just fight because that's what
yeah,
we came here to see is people fighting.
right. I mean, shit, man. Like the Mortal Kombat, the '90s Mortal Kombat was basically Enter the Dragon, but with supernatural characters and a dude in a suit with big six arms.
Wasn't
That's
someone
essentially.
chosen in Enter the Dragon?
I'm,
Also, Goro has 4 arms. I
is it
don't.
six? I thought okay, it was 4 or 6.
He has 6 limbs.
6 limbs. That's what I'm getting. Uh, I mean, I don't. I don't know.
I,
It's
I
just
don't know, Shane. I think we've given it even more than it deserves. I think we were both pretty disappointed. Disappointed enough to articulate how disappointed. But most people will just see it, think it sucks, and then move on. And
yeah.
I think those people are the real winners.
They're the real winners in this situation.
Move
But
on to Pretty Little
yeah,
Liars.
yeah. Let's move on to our second topic, which is like a bunch of stuff is getting remade, and
Yes.
and like we just watched, and video games are being remade and stuff like that, and it really the video game story, the story of video games, like to tell the story, it'd be kind of crazy. They've gone through so many changes, and not for the better. Some not for the better, some for the better, but some not for the better. And so I thought it'd be fun to go through what is better new and what was better back in the day. So do you want to go first or do you want me to go?
Um, I think one thing that was better back in the day was these Sonic games, and I know it's kind of been beleaguered, uh, and kind of like it would run into the ground that the newer stuff is just not the same as the older stuff, and that Sonic didn't really make a good transition into 3D because what we were watching was a cool, uh, you know, mostly a movie, right? Like you jump like 4 times in Sonic 2 and you just get carried around in a little ball the rest of the time. And it's
Yeah,
awesome. Like it's really, really fun. And I think that's what we needed. And then everything else went 3D and Sonic tried to as well. And there was something about just going fast towards something that did not it's just all the games now are just kind of like Temple Run. So I can say, I know we're old fogies and it's me saying the good old days were better, but I think I can safely say that Sonic was better in the old days.
yeah, let's go with old first. We'll go with old first and then we'll
Okay.
go new. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I totally agree with you. Like it's kind of crazy how far Sonic has fallen since you know the early Genesis days. Even as soon as it hit the Sega Dreamcast, and even Sonic Adventure One was pretty fun, and it was okay, but it didn't blow everyone's socks off like N64 Mario did. When Mario
Sure.
came to 3D, it was just they nailed it. They nailed it so hard, and with Sonic, 3D or with Sonic Adventure
But
on
that was
the
his thing was that he had to go fast.
you had to go
Mario didn't have
fast.
such limitations.
True to form. And I think people, the novelty of seeing Sonic go really fast, going from behind him and then facing forward as opposed to, a scrolling screen. I don't know. I think the novelty kind of wore off and it just hasn't been able to come back. Um, so old is better. I remember the days where you would a game would come out and the game would be finished. That was the game.
Oh man, we are falling so far from that tree. We
You'd
are
pick
not
up the
even
game
close to that
and
tree.
whatever is in that cartridge or CD, that was it. There was no
No.
DLC, there was no patches, there was no nothing. There was like, this is the game, take it or leave it. I miss those days because it forced the companies to finish the fucking game and not fall on this crutch of like, well, we can halfway finish it and then on release date we'll have them
It'll
download a
be
two
kind of
hour
done.
a
Yeah.
2 hour patch and blah blah blah. Now I understand that making a game now as opposed to then is 10 times harder because there's so much things involved as now than it was then, but at the same time it's like the principle still stands. Like if the game is not finished, don't release it.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that it's harder to make a game now, as though like seeing those credits roll with like 50,000 names necessarily means it's going to be 50,000 times better than this indie game over here and stuff. And I don't necessarily know. I think the stuff that makes games fun has never changed. And I think like that kind of like quintessence, I guess, or the reason that we like the games that we do, uh it is timeless, and it's not really bound in the graphics or any kind of like now I'm going through my head and I'm thinking of graphical tricks that we can experience now that we couldn't back then, but like, a fun game is a fun game. That's just all there is to it.
Fair.
I can't. It kind of sucks to me because like I want the fun part of the game to be like the only part of the game usually, and they try to shoehorn in this weird fishing mini game, or they try to make it so that there's battle royale fighting just because that's trendy or whatever just came out, right? That like
Yeah.
they gotta like throw that in my game. But back then it was like those hardware limitations that made it hard to make a game, maybe harder to make a game back then than it was now, because the hardware put a box around you from the beginning and said you cannot color outside these lines. And so they did a lot with very little. If you go back and look at some of the cutscenes that Blizzard made for Diablo and StarCraft One, right? And see what they did, like with camera angles and everything, to really set up a scene with very, very few set pieces, and then and tell a story with like such small amount of and like you, the player, actually had to fill in some of the gaps with your imagination. And I guess I like that. I'm like nostalgic for that, because
Yeah.
now if they want to just like have a cut scene and they want to throw 50 million battle cruisers fighting in the background, they can. And it doesn't, they don't sit and think, does this make it better, does it tell the story better if I do that? I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
and the
the
same
same
thing
thing
goes
about
with
CGI in movies.
yeah, so you can go yeah, CGI movies. You can go the same thing with music and soundtracks, in the old 8-bit SNES 16-bit like, they that was severe limitations as far as, how a soundtrack is supposed to sound, and it's like you can't I would venture to guess that it was hell of a lot more difficult then to make a soundtrack for a game than it is now because now you have all of the options. I mean, you have all of the
Is the
options that,
music better?
like, but my point is like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's easier to like, oh, I have violin and this is a real violin. But back then they had to somehow figure out.
It was just like spitting and static and then a pop, and they made like these awesome tunes out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like, well, we don't have a violin. We have this MIDI sound that we can stretch, and that we can do something with these knobs here and make it sound like a violin.
They were real knobs. It wasn't pointing and clicking, Shane. It was physical knobs that they turn. And they're like, this is more to what I want.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing. Like we appreciate music and the creation of music, so we know that what these guys did was just pioneering, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, you're up. You're next. What's your next one?
One thing that's are we still in the olden
It's still in
days,
the
or are we
old. Still in the
talking?
old. Unless you have.
Do we trying to think of something that was bad in the olden days? Because I can think of one. One thing
Uh,
I don't miss about the olden days was the olden days of VR gaming. VR gaming has come a long way from my Virtual Boy, bleeding eyes.
did you actually own a Virtual Boy?
I did. I
Oh
owned a
wow.
Virtual Game Boy, and more than half of the collection, because the entire Virtual Boy collection is 14 games. That's how many games were made for the Virtual Boy. And I had, I guess, more than half of 14 for them.
Oh
Go
man.
thrilled.
I was
So
dude, how unthrilled were you when but I mean you got it. Did you test it out in a store at all before you got it?
no.
Okay.
Shane, I
So
don't
when you first
I
because
live life feet
I was
first.
lucky enough to be in a Target or a Walmart or something, and I remember it was you could try out a Virtual Boy, and I sat in and I was like, "Oh, this is really not great. What is everything red? What is why is everything
But hang
red?"
on. This thing is closer to me than that thing. It
So
was
how
cool.
bummed
I
how
liked it for what I want, for what it was. But I hated that the Virtual Boy got stomped on so much that it actually set VR gaming back a long time. Like
it
there
really
wasn't any
did.
experience, because the thing was, like, we need to push hardware, and so we need to show like the best things we can possibly show to the max of our computing potential. And they knew if they made it in virtual reality, they have to render everything twice. They have to make the hardware do twice the amount of work to show you both things, one shown from the left eye and then one shown to 61 millimeters to the right from the right eye,
Yeah,
simulating
wasn't
the
it like
vision.
wasn't there like I remember watching the angry video game nerd break his uh, uh break down the Virtual Boy and like how it worked, and it was
Okay.
two screens and the two screen and then a mirror or something like that or vice versa, and they would converge together to shoot back at you to
There was a
create.
shooting. There was a laser. The red, all of the red were laser pointers, and they just aimed right directly into my eyes. The reason that I can't drive at night is because of the Virtual Boy. That is the truth.
Yeah, apparently it would cause headaches. They had to put stuff on the box that said, "Hey, warning will cause
I'm the
headaches.
reason.
Stop
I am
playing
the
after
reason.
30 minutes."
They put a picture of me on the back as a warning. They're like, "This is what it's gonna do to your eyes."
Oh man. So that was basically new is better because
Yes. Yes.
virtual uh
Because there's
VR.
a lot of homebrew VR stuff, and also a lot of just cool experiences. Like I was playing, I have an Oculus headset now, and I was playing with my nephews the other week, and we were playing this climbing game, right? Like it's like you're on the side of a mountain and you look down and it's just like nothing underneath you, and you climb. And there's also a boxing game that's like you go like 2 rounds with this dude and you're just covered in sweat, completely covered in sweat, because it's such a great workout and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's another one that's like it's like Guitar Hero but with boxing. So the things come and you punch, and it's a good workout and
Oh,
stuff.
and
It's
the
cool.
lightsaber one too.
Yeah, yeah. That one, that one's Beat Saber. That one's really popular.
Beat
I don't
Saber.
like that one as much because the boxing one is making me better at boxing, and the shooting one, Pistol Whip, which is an awesome game, is showing me how bad I am at my Yosemite Sam shooting, or how bad my offhand is at shooting a weapon. But the lightsaber one isn't really making me better at anything. So I don't know
I
what to
got one
do with
for
it.
you. Old is
What?
better. Renting video games from the video store. Like
You don't like? Is it $10 in the red box? Get your game and
no.
then open it up and it's
I
just a piece of
mean,
paper.
it's sad really. There's a show on Netflix, or I think it's a movie or a documentary. It's called the last Blockbuster, and I've been meaning to watch it, but essentially it just
Mhm.
talks about like Blockbuster and video stores and how it was like it wasn't just like like a store. It wasn't a thing that you. It's not like a Walmart or a Target. You know, those aren't experiences. When you went into a video store, a Blockbuster, like that was an experience. Like you were excited because you're like, oh, I'm gonna rent this movie. I'm gonna rent this video game, and it's like, there's candy in the front, and it was just you would go with your family, and it would be in like an event. You know, it'd be like it would be a family get together, or or before Netflix and chill, it was like, hey, do you want to go rent a movie? Like, together, and it was a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Actually,
miss that.
I worked at a Hollywood Video, and it sounds like not just the renting part that you're talking about, but the whole like act and experience of getting excited about and then buying a game was different back then. And would that be safe to say that like now when I want a game and I kind of hear something about it, and then maybe I click 2 times, and then it's in my library, but I never play it, and then I go to play it and I just buy something else, and then I don't play that either. That's the new way. And then the old way is, you know, maybe some of my friends have it. I've played it over at their house, their physical house. We sat on a real couch next to each other and we played the same game, right?
Yeah.
And then I got excited about it, and so put my money together. This literally, I'm going to tell you a story that sounds outlandish, but it actually literally happened. Collected all of my money together, and I had my mom take me to the video store, and then I had her put the game on the counter, and to have the person that worked there at a GameStop in Knoxville, Tennessee, say, "Oh, Diablo, this game is satanic, ma'am. It is a satanic game." And my mom believed him, because why would anybody say that unless they were sent by God himself to stop your poor child from being corrupted by this? So I didn't buy that game that day. So thanks, dude.
Wow.
That's you're the reason. You're the
Why
reason that
it was a GameStop?
yeah, yeah.
Dude,
Oh,
so
did you? Was there higher quality
no,
caliber people that
I'm
worked
just
there
trying
back
to think
then?
of like the kind of the kind of person who works at a GameStop is like a guy like you and me, our age, or a little bit younger, or like
Dude, no, dude, I worked at a Hollywood Video. Okay, so I can tell you this is exactly what happened 10 seconds before we walked in the door. They're like, "Hey, yo, you see this lady coming in with a kid? I'm gonna tell her whatever the kid wants is satanic. It's gonna be so funny." He's like, "Yeah, man, this is a good way to pass the time." And that's what they did, and they were like, "It's not gonna work. No one
so
like.
so you just
It's not
got
like anyone takes this seriously."
it was a clerk situation.
Yeah, no, I got clerked. I absolutely got clerked. Oh man, I'm
Man,
still burnt up about that because there were two
when you
parts
put
to
it
that.
that way, it's like that's really funny.
Yeah, right. It was There were two parts to it. It was the guy doing that, but it was also my mom being like, being like, there is real evil in these video games. I
Oh,
believe what I see on TV about them causing violence.
that
Never
was my
mind that
worst.
20 years into the future, people will wonder if I'm the next MAGA bomber. Oh, go ahead. Go. Oh, sorry, Shane.
That was
Continue.
it was like one of my worst fears when I would have my mother, because I was too young to go and rent movies by myself. Like I had to go with my mom or my dad, and my dad was easy to trick because I would get anime all the time, and it's like blood and guts and whatever, and they didn't really care. But sometimes these animes would have nude scenes in them. And so but I really wanted to watch. I heard like great things about this anime and whatever, and so I would get them from the store, and I would pray that the guy that was that was you know uh, get, ringing us up or whatever wouldn't like look at this anime and go, he's 12 or 13 or whatever, he should not be watching this 18 plus anime. It never happened. I
You're like, but it's
somehow
cartoons. You can always say it's cartoons, mom.
yeah,
Why?
and yeah.
That must be a mistake. Why would it be cartoons unless I can watch it? Yeah.
Yeah, and
That, I
it's
think even that experience is different for like a young kid now. Cause I don't know. I'm not a young kid, but I imagine like if I were a young kid and I was trying to sneak something past my parents, I would just go online and download it at the
right.
end.
Right.
I
It
would
ruins.
pull out my phone that I got when I was 5 years
You know
old
what?
and
I
just
think
listen
us back in the day, we're just getting so old, man, right now.
to it.
But back in the day, we had to
Right.
sneak, like it physically sneak things past our parents. We had to
Yes.
think with our brains,
Yes.
and we had to think of ways to
If we wanted to break the rules, right, it
like,
wasn't easy.
yeah, it was, but nowadays it's like, you figure out a hack to hack away the security settings on the laptop, and you're good to go. Anyway, was
It's
that mine?
any 6-year-old can do it. Like they learn how to do it in computer class. It's just the first thing they teach you.
What's the what you got? It's your turn.
Which what are we on? Are we still on old?
I think we've
Still
lost the goat now. It's
reminiscing.
like whatever you're feeling.
They had it like another thing that I liked about the experience was, and I know people have mentioned this before when they read the manual on the way home, that how they got smaller and smaller, the boxes got smaller and smaller, and so they didn't include these giant. They weren't just manuals like how to play the game. They were like, here's the lore of each and every character in the game. This is their backstory and what motivates them. Uh, because again, they had to do a lot with a little, and they had to kind of borrow the user's imagination in a way that I don't know that games just do that anymore.
I don't think so. I can't remember the last time I opened a game and there's a manual, that
sometimes there's a map. If we're lucky, there's a map, and I
yeah.
think a map makes everything cool. That's actually a true thing of the apparently back in the day when the Lord of the Rings came out, there were a lot of fantasy stories out there. But Lord of the Rings had this map at the beginning, and it was like, this is everywhere we're gonna go. And obviously, you know how into Lord Tolkien was. He basically made this huge world, and then this tiny piece of it was the story of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like that's how expansive it was. But there was this map, so you could read it and you could follow along as it went and stuff. And that, that's a big deal. That gets somebody excited when they see you see a map and it's like, ooh, what's going to happen when we get to the mountain of doom, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
They would include all sorts of stuff. They would include the manual, how to play the game, and the bios on all the characters, and
yeah.
the overlying prologue and stuff like that. And they would also include like posters. I remember I had several posters in my room, not because I bought the posters, is because they came with the video game. And
Yeah.
so I would just
Yeah.
put all these cool posters, and like, don't like, come on, it's not that much more to
It
put in
must
it.
be because
It must.
there was some financial incentive, and some video game executive was just doing lines of coke in the bathroom, and he was like, we could save $70 billion by not putting anything in the box. And they were like, oh man, that's the best part. People love that. And the first guy beat out the second guy. So here's the world we live in, the
Yeah,
grim,
just
mapless world.
yeah. Like I'm gonna choose one of these games right now.
What do you have back there, Shane?
All right.
What are you
Tales of
pilfering around?
Systeria, which is actually one of the worst Tales games. I really don't like it. Anyway, it's right here. It's the box right here. It's pretty cool looking box. It's an RPG, so
Okay.
there's got to be a bunch of lore and characters and stuff in it, right? And we
Okay.
open it,
Looks kind of
and
anime.
it's
Could be some.
absolutely there's nothing. There's nothing in here. They don't have anything. It's warning for photosensitivity to seizures. Don't
What did
play
you
it.
think? What did you think was gonna be in there?
I mean, I'm just like
My all of my
something.
games are on a spool. I throw the boxes away. I just keep the CDs, and they're on a little CD
I like to
spool,
collect. I
like a
like to collect
Western.
something. I collect like it's a
Ah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
And just back in the day,
I collect disappointment.
they would have like a huge book, and like I remember. Oh my god, I remember this vividly. Okay, so Final Fantasy VII just came out, and I just bought it. Okay, I had just bought it, and it was that day I had orientation to go to a new school. It was a private school. I only went to private school for 1 year. I went to public school for sixth grade, and I went to private school for seventh because my parents wanted to see like how I
If it
would
makes you
do.
smarter.
Well, that that and like I was having a tough time in sixth grade. Like I was getting bullied a lot, and I was just kind of like, I don't like it. I'm not happy, and so my parents did something about it and put me in private school with Kyle.
Oh, nice,
Kyle, yeah.
nice.
So with Kyle,
Yeah.
he went to private school, and so I went to school with him for a year. And my first day, it was orientation, which was like in the afternoon or something. Bought the game, and then I had the game in my hand in my backpack. We had just bought the game on the way to orientation. So I'm in here in this classroom, and teacher's not there yet or something, whatever. And I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for the teacher to show up and whatever and do this orientation. But I have the case with me, and I open up the case and I open up the booklet, and the booklet would just have this awesome artwork about this amazing game that I'm about to play. And I was so excited. I could not contain my excitement for the entire day. And
And
so,
so I left. I
no, I mean, it was
skipped school.
orientation. So it was only like an hour or 2 hours. It was really short. It wasn't like a full day of school. It was like new student orientation or something.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was so excited. I got home and put the disc in, and it was just like, just reading that book firsthand and just that build up to putting the damn disc in the thing. It was, man, I will always remember that.
This is how that story would play out now. So I was home from school because there's a global pandemic. And I got on my computer and downloaded a game, but oops, my video card couldn't run it. So I asked for a refund, and 2 days later, I received one.
Yeah. You download
That's
it
as
for two
big as it
hours. That's your
gets.
waiting. It's
Yeah.
oh here's something old. Actually, it's both. It could be old and new for different reasons. Okay.
Okay.
So this is old is better. This is back in the day. Fans didn't have as much say as they do now. Like,
Okay.
people freak
Okay.
out about everything, and because of social media, because everyone has power to overwhelm anything and to basically cancel and destroy anything it doesn't like, this fucking amorphous blob of stupidity, they can like
Okay.
ruin a video game franchise. They could ruin a video game. They could just, it's just like it and it's all, it's just, it drives me crazy.
Do you have one in mind? I mean,
As an
I know
example,
you don't like to get super controversial or anything like that, but when a video game gets ruined, I usually blame it on the studio that made the crappy game.
well,
Uh,
it's because
you
they
really
they
missed the
listen
boat.
they listen to everybody on the social media. They've got marketers in
Sometimes,
there.
sometimes,
They do, maybe, I don't know.
sometimes. I always, whenever I talk to you, Shane, I always have my index card full of topics to, throw out real thought grenades and get things crazy. And one of them said, well, this is one that only works on you. Tell Shane that cancel culture does not exist. And that's what we would, whoa, go crazy on from there. But
It's not even,
I
I'm
think
not even
I
talking, I'm talking about just like, oh, gosh dang it,
at the end
I
of the
should have thought of an
day,
example before I thought of it, but like, I don't know. I was hoping that you would jump in at this point, because
at the end of the day, the final decision makers are these studios that make the game. And so, they can choose to listen to who they want to. There's always going to be nut jobs out there. There's going to be people that one of the things I was kind of disappointed about Far Cry 5. There was actually a lot that I was disappointed in, and some that I was pleasantly surprised. But I liked Far Cry 3 so much that I thought, Far Cry 4 was okay. Far Cry 5 comes out, and it's going to be about this. There's this aspect of like religious zealotism, and that's what's like these people that live in Podunk, USA, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, and everybody's like really hyper into the whole god thing. That's like the plot of the game. You fight against like people that are hyper into the whole god thing. And then the build up, they released a bunch of stuff about that, and everybody was really excited. They're like, oh, there's like a racism aspect, there's everything else, there's like all of these angles and everything to get excited about. Um, and then when you play the game, you can tell that they got scared and they walked some of it back. Whereas before there was this like racial purity aspect, and even some of the dialogue like alludes to that. There's also like randomly, black enemies, and you're like, wait, there's hang on, when did they? What
they
was the
they got
thing
too
for the
inclusive.
trailer? That and you're like, I didn't, like to have they heard the speech that the guy just gave? Like, is
Right.
that and uh they never say anything about Jesus. It's always God. It's always like very you can tell that it's modeled after Christianity, but it's not like there's never a scene where they go into a store and a little kid tries to buy Diablo and his mom is like, that's satanic. That's against the religion that we have. But there was that like where you get excited because you think the studio is going to commit. But that's my version of what you're talking about, Shane, where like uh you're like, I think that this was just about to be something awesome. And then they put it in front of a focus group, and the focus group was like, can you and they ruined it.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of stuff you mean?
Yeah, sort of. That's basically, yeah, essentially. It's not really that. It's just like maybe it's not before the game comes out. Maybe it's after the game comes out, and there's just this
Outrage.
onslaught of outrage or whining or something. Hey, I'm not saying that I'm exclused from all that. I whine all the time about video games. Hell, this podcast is just about me whining. So
Right,
I
right,
whine
right, right.
about first person all the time. I
Sure,
mean, and
sure.
and everyone loves first person games. I don't like first person games. I don't like it. I just don't. And
It's your signature,
it's
Shane.
my
That's like your
signature. I don't
thing.
like them.
Yeah.
But and that's I think that was where I was going with that. I had it written down, so I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes
No, you're right. There's kind of like
on the
when you went to buy a game, you knew it was somebody's vision. It was like Peter Molyneux's vision, or somebody, like the guy that made Fable, or the guy, Sid Meier's vision.
yeah.
And like this is like a piece of artistic uh thing that somebody's made. And now when you buy a video game, you're like, well, this is the studio plus 70,000 people that I don't like in real life, so I wish they wouldn't.
Their
It's
wishes and
like
hopes and dreams, and
collusion.
I don't care about their hopes and dreams. I only
Yeah,
care about
yeah,
mine.
yeah.
Um, but on the flip side, on the very flip side, for the very same reasons, and actually you just said, like I put this also in the new is better in the same thing. Fans have more power. Fans have the ability to make a studio do something, like, or to make them, stop doing something stupid, like,
Yes, yes.
they because of social media. So it's a double-edged sword here. It's like a big amorphous blob of good intentions could, a good thing could come out of it, vice versa.
So I think that we have always, and this was true in the past, that it's always been the same kind of formula where you really have the freedom to say and do whatever you want to. And then after you say or do it, the people around you have the freedom to impose consequences on you, right? As much influence as they can. And it sounds like you're lamenting that right now the players have so much power that when they impose consequences, they can like the amorphous blob. I'm telling you that amorphous blob was always there, but now it's kind of like more. They have the power to like make empires rise and fall in a way that was never
Yes.
the case
Okay.
before.
Yeah. And so, like, let's say, for an example, you have a video game series, and 7 out of 8 games were amazing. The last game, not so much. But you love the first seven. The first seven were great, and then 8 comes
Okay.
out, and you're like, "What is this? This?" And then you'd hear things like, "The studio's lost its touch. The studio doesn't know what they're doing anymore.
Things
They're
from
done."
us on this
And
podcast.
right. And so that would grow and grow and grow and grow. And the studio would hear that and go, well, it looks like we are not making any money anymore. So let's do something completely different. And then now that series is done. It doesn't exist. That kind of thing happens, you know, that's the bad side of it, because maybe it is a terrible game, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
Sid Meier, you remember that guy I mentioned earlier, Sid
Yeah.
Meier,
Yeah.
really famous. I guess he invented SimCity. I think was his like claim to fame. But one of his quotes was, I get to make one bad game." He said, "I can make it's my get out of jail free card. I can make one bad game and everyone will buy it. And then no one will buy my next game. But I get to make, at that time that he said it, which was back in the day, which is like in the 90s, he had never missed, right? Everything that he made
Yeah.
was awesome. But he knew that like that was his like standard. And I don't know that there's anybody out there that's still thinking that same way. That's like this one has to be perfect. It can't
Well,
be a good game.
that type of person puts the fans in mind, and that's I think the way
Yeah.
that you should, go about it, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that put food in your family. You know what I'm saying?
They
You
do.
know?
They do put food in
But
your
at the
family
same
or
time, you don't
tomatoes in
want
your
to.
family.
But at the same time, you don't want to sacrifice an artistic vision. So it's a balance. Life is all about balance. Okay. I have some more. Or do you want to go?
Yeah, no, keep them coming.
Okay.
I do want to hear some
Okay.
more.
So fans have more powers.
Mm-hmm,
They can control companies when they do stupid stuff.
mm-hmm.
Um, the voice acting is a hell of a lot better now. They're actually using real actors now, like people who actually have, gone to school for acting, and, they know how to act, the
They need.
idea of acting.
That's why we need an Oscar for best voice actor. We need like more money
Absolutely.
in that industry. We need more. We need more like women in that industry. We need more. Just I don't know if you've seen that movie with Luke Bell or Lake Bell. Is that her name? Where it's about voice acting, but about how like there's no trailers that are announced by women. Like
Oh
you just in the
yeah.
movie, you're like, yeah, you're
I
like,
didn't even
wait a
think
second,
about that.
what? Oh yeah. So that there's like apparently there's like a vacuum there, and there's also
you
these
know,
people that we know from video games that are really really good that will never make like even a fraction of what an actor makes, and that's wrong. Like they're like giving their all to this scene.
who would be a great woman to put in trailers is freaking, god dang it, I forget her name. The
What was she
actress,
in?
who plays Morgan in Dragon Age. Like, her voice is just
Oh, I know
smooth,
who you
like it's great, it's fantastic, and she
I'm gonna
should
look it up. We
narrate
gotta give
all.
props.
Yeah, give props. Like, oh man, it's gonna drive me crazy. I made a video about her. She's one of my favorite actresses, and I totally forget her name.
Claudia Black.
Thank you, Claudia Black. Claudia Black's voice is just awesome, and she should narrate every trailer ever, like, because she would nail it.
Yeah,
Because it's
there's a
it's
lot of skill
dark
out there.
and mysterious, but also sexy and cool, and you're like, yeah, this is what a voice should sound like. Anyway, voice acting, graphics, obviously, the obvious things, like graphics are better, games are bigger, like
But
they.
are they better, Shane?
I didn't say better. I said the graphics. I said,
That's what I that's
Oh,
what I
okay.
mean. I mean like when I said they did a lot with a little, I'm thinking of things like Mario 64 and how compact, how there wasn't any like wasted anything,
Well,
and there wasn't any nonsense going on in the
I think,
background.
visually speaking, if we're talking about pure visuals, obviously they are, quote unquote, objectively better. But, and it's kind of,
They're higher
it's not,
resolution,
you're
perhaps.
comparing apples and oranges, because like back in the day, we had to use our imagination. We had to pretend that Mario
Yes,
was actually jumping on a mushroom with eyes.
that's fair. That is fair.
And so, I mean,
That's-
nowadays it's leaves less and less and less to the imagination, and that's a cool thing, because it took someone's imagination to make something out of nothing,
That's
and
true.
to
That's
make
true.
that nothing look like, oh wow, that looks like a real mountain, oh that looks
That
like a
looks
real
like a
sunset,
mustache. We should
like,
give him a mustache now.
uh th- like, the stuff that's coming out of like Horizon Zero Dawn, you know Lady Snipe Shot. I had her on my podcast, and she talked about virtual photography, and one of her favorite games is to photograph is Horizon Zero Dawn, a game which I've been meaning to play, and I just haven't played it. But just
Freaking go out
the
and get it, Shane. Come on.
beautiful.
Every single that's a recurring theme on the show.
I know,
Every
I
time
know.
you always bring up
I
how
just,
we
I
need to
always
get
like, I always bring it up. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go tomorrow and I'm gonna get it, and then the tomorrow happens and I totally forget about
comes up.
it. But yeah, it's a beautiful game. Like the photos that she takes with that, it's like, oh my god, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Just
So
imagine those photos are moving and while you're playing a video game in that world. That's what it's like to play that game.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think today's games are becoming more um I wrote down better stories, but I think I'm going to cross that out. I don't think the stories that are being told in games now are better per se. I do think,
Sometimes they
however,
can tell more of it, right?
they can tell more of it because they're longer games now. They have the
Yeah.
ability to and they're more realistic. Um, they're you know even the fantastical ones bring in a little bit more realism, a little bit more explanation on why these things are happening, as opposed to, hey, this is Mario, or like Mega Man. Like, who's Mega Man? I don't know. It's just a guy that just kills robots. That's all you need to know. And we basically would make that's all we needed back in the day. But
Yeah.
now it's kind of like we apparently we like being explained uh, a little bit more matter of factly about the world that we're engaging in.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And I think I agree with you that that doesn't make the stories always better, but I think that people have pretty high standards now for storytelling when there's games out there like The Last of Us, right?
Oh,
Like there's
I thought you were gonna go. I thought you were gonna go. Well, Last of Us is great. I thought you were gonna go The Witcher.
yeah, yeah, or even we decided during our cyberpunk episode that those books must be really good because that was a magic rock that The Witcher struck.
Oh man,
The
God.
but one well, I was just thinking about this is one thing that I like about new games that a lot of people criticize. Do you know what a map game is?
A
Excuse me.
map game?
A map game is a game like, say, Assassin's Creed, where you open up the map and it's covered in icons. And if you go to every single icon and clear it out, you get 100% in the game. That's basically what the game is outside of the storyline that you're playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The game is covered in icons and stuff. And there's a tons and tons of games like that. There's Just Cause is a map game. And there's any um, game that attaches like the things you can do, right? In
Essentially,
Assassin's Creed,
what you explained
and
is basically any modern open world game now.
yes, yes. And a lot of people are like, that's lazy game design, or that's, you're basically spoon feeding people, making them one from thing to thing. But there are times when I like to turn my brain off, and those map games have gotten me through some tough times in my life, particularly Just Cause 2 has gotten me through some tough times in my life where all I needed was that next objective, however meaningless that it was just part of this big one giant feat, which was accomplishing everything that there was to accomplish in a game. I
Honestly,
like that.
I agree with you. I think, and there is ways to do it, like and it's every part of it is
Smartly.
fun, getting from one objective to the next. And I think that was exemplified the very first time I experienced a game like that was Assassin's Creed 2. The When I
Yeah.
play, like, that was the first time where everything that you did, no matter how like monotonous it felt, like, because you're going and grabbing, but you're working towards a goal. Like when you picked up the glyphs and you got all 12 of the glyphs or whatever, you got like a reward. And your reward was
Yeah.
something really cool. It was about like this storyline. You get pieces of this story that you're like, what? There's like, what is this? How does this happen? What is this? There's
That's
aliens?
part of
What?
the
You
that's part of
know?
the map game. You need 24 of these to make this. You need 30 of these, and these are scattered around the world. And there's usually towers or some form of like to reveal the map before we explore, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoy that very much so. I mean, I guess it's yeah, I guess there really isn't an equivalent to that. We didn't have that back in the day,
No,
really.
in the old times, like in the Morrowind days, it was like you get a instead of you wouldn't even get an objective on the map for the quest. You would just get a scroll that said turn left at the second boulder, and you would hope that
You
maybe
picked the right
it's
boulder.
going the right way. Yeah, that's all. That's all there was. Like it was supposed to be hard. Figuring out what to do was hard. That's true of even one of a game that I think most people would agree is one of the best games ever, which was GoldenEye 007. Figuring out what to do and what you were supposed to be doing was really, really difficult in that game. Like your
It wasn't
objectives were
painted for you.
no, they you never knew if like you were supposed to destroy something or throw something and attach it to it or pick it up and go somewhere and put it somewhere else. You never knew because they wanted you to buy Nintendo Power magazine that actually told you all these things, right? Like that was the secret. But they back then that was part of it that they were like part of this game, like Myst was really popular. So it was like
Oh
drop
yeah.
somebody in the middle of a game and they have a lever and they need to push the lever and go off somewhere and see if it changed something, and that's whoa, that's what they need to do. But like nowadays, I think that if a time traveler came from that time, he would look at these games and be like, you're really being spoon fed because you're all of your objectives are spelled out for you. And then we would let them play one of these games, and they would even Horizon Zero Dawn is a map game, and
Yeah.
they would just get blown away, and they would be like, so how did you guys fix that climate change thing? And we would be like, ha ha, ha, and then they would go back to their own time.
Climate change. We got a new virus.
Oh yeah, you can bring that back with you if you want.
Oh man. I think that is it for mine. Oh, hang on. I got one for uh wait, hang on. Yeah. Companies today put more priority. I think we've actually covered this, so I think this is done. Like
More
companies put more priority in their bottom line rather than the art form or fun gameplay. Like useless
Yeah, but
DLC,
what?
microtransactions, like stuff like
There are new
how can
ways to
we
rip us off, but wasn't that always the goal, right?
No, I mean because you couldn't really. I mean, you could maybe get away with it with like a bad sequel and just not work very hard at it and like have one guy do the programming and all the money goes to
You,
the suits, but then you wouldn't
you
make
could
any
put
money
a
after that because you lose all your goodwill.
you could put a oh, goodwill. That's not something they care about at all these days. You could put a puzzle in your game that was specific squares that they had to walk on before they got the golden gun, and you could put the only way to get that is to buy Nintendo Power magazine, and that could be a decision that was based on money grubbing and not based on artistic integrity.
Maybe. I feel like it's well,
We have in the past talked about how crappy it is that now what they're looking for is not to make a fun game. They're looking for what's the most you're willing to do to like get to a stopping point and have to pay a little bit more money to have to keep doing.
yeah,
That's
there's
what
always like
that's what
even if
they're
it's
trying
not
to distill in a laboratory.
yeah, even if it's not the ultimate goal to steal money. The goal is to make money, right? And it's again, it's kind of like I imagine that you have the developers who are working really hard and passionate and all this other stuff, and then there's the main guy, the guy who makes all the decisions, and he has a boardroom, and the boardroom are the people like are the investors, and the investors are the ones that go, so how can we make this little fun mechanic thing? How can we make that longer so that we can take their money somehow? This is apparently it's like a little gremlin in a
Oh,
suit.
so fishing games are really popular now. How can there be a fish game in the game?
And then we can also sell them. We can sell them different fish via microtransactions.
Yeah, if they want blue fish, red fish, they got to pay for them.
Right. So that didn't
I
happen
don't like that
today.
guy. I don't like that guy either. Oh man. So, what's the ultimate verdict? Are things better now, video game wise, or were they better back in the day?
I say never have any regrets.
Okay, that's not an answer to the question that I asked, even a little bit.
I
Uh,
say
the
put one foot forward.
Do you think? Okay, there are people out there who say that the music that you liked when you're a teenager is the music that you will most like in your life, not because kids' emotions are amplified and you were going through a lot back then hormonally, but because as you get older, you become more and more jaded and numb, and happiness flies away from you, and the weight of gravity beats down day by day, and you get weaker and weaker to push back.
Father
Uh,
Time is undefeated, everybody.
exactly. Father Time is undefeated. You get more numb to the bad stuff, but you also get more numb to the good stuff. And so I, when I watch my son laughing, I don't think that I look at him sometimes forlornly and think, I don't know, I don't think I'll ever be this happy ever again, as he is right now, just laughing at a little, toy.
You're not
Um,
smoking the right stuff, man. You know.
that having been said, yeah, talk more after about that. You need to connect, but clearly, that out of the way, knowing that we're old fogies, I'm gonna ask you if a game that comes out now will ever make you feel the way that it did with that game that you got super excited about and
Oh yeah.
got left
Well, it is
after
different
school.
now because when you're younger,
Is it
yeah. Well, it's different now because I'm different. I'm not the same person I was when I was 13, and when you're 13, you're young and full of life and everything that you just said. And I was able to tap more into my imagination. Um, but I will say the closest that has ever that has happened was honestly playing Final Fantasy 7 remake like that. Like
your
I
positive
know it played
opinion?
on my nostalgia, and that probably was the culprit why I felt like that. But it didn't have to go that way. It was a remake of a game that it's a pretty much a brand new experience. Even though it's tackling all this, but for some, and I'm not the only one. Like people loved it. Like it could have gone a totally different direction. It could have been the worst decision to ever do. Like why would you ever do this? But as soon as I put that game in, I was that how old was I? 13 when that game came out. I was that young teenager, like excited to play Final Fantasy. Like I like it was cool. It was cool because, and it also was because you want it to succeed. It was kind of like rooting for your favorite young underdog sports whatever, or Olympian, whatever, and you're just you have they don't really have a chance to win, like the odds are against them, and then they freaking pull it off, and just that whole time, that whole race or whatever, you're just like you feel so happy. You feel like the world is on its axis again, and you can move. Yeah, I felt those things when I was playing 7.
Oh
The most
goodness,
recent
Shane.
time. Now,
So that the way that you just answered that question was a video game that could make you feel the way you did when you played FF7. You're like, yes, Final Fantasy 7.
I know that was weird, but that's the honest truth. I'm sure there are games though that really blew my mind, like the original Mass Effect. When I first played that, that blew my mind because a game like that never existed really. Besides Knights of the Old Republic, which is another game that kind of blew my mind. It's made by the
You're
same
right. You're
company,
right.
and Mass Effect is basically just an upgraded version of what Knights of the Old Republic was. But again, when I played on the 360, and the way that they had the cutscenes and the characters interacting with one another, I had never seen an RPG or a game like portray its characters in a movie or TV show like form. Like they were speaking to each other. I was watching a television show, like a really cool television show that I got to take part in, physically.
Yeah.
Um, that blew my mind. So I think there are more experiences down the road. I think with VR becoming more and more popular, I think there's going to come a time, there's going to become that one VR game that's going to blow everyone's minds. Um, it just hasn't happened yet. And I don't know when that's going to happen. It might be 20 years from now when they
Some
actually
people
can like,
say it's Half-Life Alex. Some people say that that's the quintessential blowing your mind. I don't own it. I don't think my computer could run it. But I think that's the
but it
people that
also,
do, and
sorry,
not
go ahead.
enough people have. Not enough people have a headset to make that game popular, and
Right.
I think that's why. I think if everybody that had a computer that could play The Witcher 3 also had a headset and could play Half-Life Alex, I think that game would, be a big deal.
Yeah. I think so. To
But I haven't
answer your
played it.
question in a very long winded way, I think it has the potential for the newer games to blow my mind in different ways,
In new
in
ways.
new ways, and
Yeah.
because again, we're fortunate to be fans of an industry that is actually growing up with us as well, because they were once kids that played video games, and that's why they're in this industry in the first place, and that's why they're passionate about it, and they want to you know do what the predecessors did, but in a different way. And so we're the beneficiaries of that passion. And so I'm excited for
Absolutely.
the future.
Well, good. I'm glad that you're optimistic. I think that's good.
I am. I'm. I of course will find things to be pissed at, and because that's just the way
We
life
expect
is.
nothing less. We have to make more of these videos.
Yeah, we gotta keep the show going. Um,
Absolutely.
I think on that note, I think it's time for us to depart because I am tired and I gotta go to bed like soon.
Yeah, man. Gotta get all
um,
this mixed down before you go to bed, I'm sure.
yeah. Unless there's anything that I'm missing, is there anything else that we need to discuss before we sign off? Uh-oh, you're frozen.
And that, Shane, is why the final word. That's all I have to say. Well, it's taken me a long time to say it. It's a long time to have the courage to say it, but I sure am glad I did. I think that was the finest 5-minute monologue I've ever done.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful, and I feel sorry for those who didn't hear it.
All
It
right,
was
man.
truly inspiring. But in all seriousness, I love doing this stuff with you, dude, and I'm so happy for you and Leah and your new baby boy Parker. It's just so good to talk with you, and I wish nothing but the best. And until next time, we'll think of something. We'll think of something. Something will happen
We'll think
during.
of something worth saying between
Yeah.
now and then. Maybe we'll watch shows on HBO Max and review Pretty Little Liars.
I've heard it shows really good.
Am I frozen again? Shane, dude, it's been real.
Yeah,
Thanks for
dude.
having me out. It's always a pleasure, dude.